people who want to be mavericks, people who want to get out of the system and do stuff. In fact, some of the biggest startups across the world have been put together by dropouts from Stanford, dropouts from Harvard. After having got a job, after having got placed, let's say, you drop out, and that's an even bigger thing. Look at it this way. At this given point of time, the guys who are offering the money haven't been placed at a uni, maybe will not be placed at a uni. Okay, I'm being nasty. But the point is, even at this point of time, you're willing to pay that money. It isn't much. But after being placed at a uni, after having studied at Stanford for 2 months, and you drop out to do a startup or drop out to take this kind of a job, I think that's a good one. That's called fire in the belly. And there's plenty of fire in the Indian belly. The ulcers apart that a startup gives you. Okay.
I do want to ask though, Harishji, there is, if you take a look at the numbers, an increase in the percentage of MBAs that we're seeing people apply for. Most MBA universities globally are saying they're seeing an increase in the applications. I just want to ask you, I worry almost that in our conversations around the startup culture in Bangalore, what we're actually seeing is possibly an aping of a trend that we've seen play out in the West. This entire philosophy or culture, which is based on the idea that you don't need an MBA, that you can go straight to startups. It's something we've seen play out in Silicon Valley over the last few years.
Oh yes, it plays out. But both things are playing out. At one end, there is a large mass of people who are following the herd mentality of saying that, yes, I must slap myself with an MBA degree and it'll help. Okay. And there's yet another part of the mass which is saying, hey, I'm going to not do an MBA. I'm going to get into a startup and I'm going to be a success myself. Both these are tractions which are happening. But the beauty of it is India is such a large country. The number of people we have, the number of people who are getting prosperous suddenly at the top of the middle of the pyramid is fantastic. And I think this money is coming in. And where does this money go? This money goes into MBAs. Firstly, it aspires to go to overseas MBAs. It aspires to go into Indian MBAs. Some of the great MBAs, money goes into an IIM or the Indian School of Business at both Mohali and Chandigarh. So this money keeps going into this format. As it goes, there's a humongous number of people who are doing startups. I think, if you count the number of people who say they're doing a startup, phenomenal. So in the old days, the joke used to be someone without a job is called a consultant. The new joke is someone without a job is doing a startup.
Positive and some very sort of interesting points there, Mr. Bijur. But I'm interested in understanding the extent to which it can really go. The fact is there was a lot of backlash and that led to it actually coming back to say that, boss, okay, we're not going to charge you. We are looking at, this was just a filtration process. Some have looked at it as a really cheap joke.
Okay. Cheap joke, poor joke, PJ and stuff like that. I mean, there's plenty out there. But the point is, if this is a filtration process, it's a good one because it's an attitudinal filtration process. A guy who lands up at my doorstep and says that, I want to be chief of staff and I'll pay you money for it, means he's got plenty of hunger in the belly. And if I have a large number of them, I'll filter them out. And then, after I select them, I'll tell them, hey, this was a joke to get the real hunger in the belly guys in, and I'll pay you money. Okay, that's one thing. But, that apart, I think let's not forget the power of this marketing gimmick, because it is a marketing gimmick which has paid dividends. And what's wrong with the word gimmick, guys? Let's not pass a value judgment on the word gimmick. Okay, who are you and I to pass a value judgment on the word gimmick? The United States of America has survived for 3 decades on this word called gimmick. Okay, marketing out there has survived on this word called gimmick. Of course, now it's out of fashion. But in India, if it's fashionable, let's go with it, folks.
But that's what I worry about almost, Harish. Right before you were talking, we were actually playing out for our audiences examples of similar controversies around job opportunities. And most of them were coming in from the US. You've had Condé Nast, you've had Gawker Media, both in the last few years come into trouble. And this is for offering, in this case, unpaid internships. We're, of course, talking about chief of staff, which is a very different level of opportunity. But do we want to see structures like that, structures that have been criticized as exploitative initiative in India. I'm worried this will start a trend, and it kind of has. You had a lot of CEOs mockingly, jokingly put up, different job postings. But I'm sure it's lit a light bulb in a lot of founders' heads.
No, very good point that you make. It's really to say that if this becomes a trend, what happens? Another thing is, this is not likely to become a trend because, it's so crazy. People even today in India offer unpaid internships, and people actually land up there because they have nothing else to do. So the people who land up at unpaid internships are possibly at the bottom of the pyramid of capability, capacity, etc. And therefore, if you want to get really good people, you need to be doing really good stuff. Okay. So this seems to be an attempt to try and look at really good people who have real hunger in the belly to get them in. But as a trend, I think it's a terrible thing because, if you start offering free internships, if you start offering free jobs, it means to say, hey guys, paid jobs are not available in this country. The only free jobs are there and we are exploiting you. But I don't think this is about exploitation. It's more about the hangama, the fun, the PR value, the fact that I did it first and I stood out and I got this humongous amount of digital media, physical media, every kind of social media looking at me and creating hangama. The guy who did it must be, laughing all the way. He's gone to the bank many times laughing, but now he's going beyond the bank into the stratosphere of banks laughing. And this bank is the publicity bank of India. The publicity bank of the world, where, he's made news. And I think all the best, guy, you've done a great job.
Okay, Mr. Bijur, I have to ask a bit of a fundamental question on startups with you. Startups are great for learning, but somehow not a sustainable model, at least how it works in India. When we think of Apple and Google, they were also startups at one point in time, but look at the maturity of those organizations now. India somehow is still making that 0 to 1 journey in a way, and even those beyond. The hustle culture hasn't gone away. Hustle culture, which we all know, has been criticized so hugely. So in a scenario like that, what exactly are we teaching the youth? Are we teaching them only hunger? Are we teaching them only opportunity? Or are we teaching them a wholesome picture, which perhaps a classroom, which perhaps an MBA would have offered?
What a beautiful question on a beautiful morning. I think it's very philosophical. It borders on the philosophical, and as it must. What are we teaching people? Are we teaching them only hunger? Are we teaching them only hollowness? Well, the fact remains that startups, and Indian startups and Chinese startups, both teach only this. Because the idea seems to be to say that if you have hunger, all else will fall into place. And all else is, all the work that you will surround yourself with. But then the truth is that for every 100 startups that are floated, possibly 0.2 of them will actually succeed. And 0.2 is a sub 1 decimal, which is 1/5 of that 1% that we're talking about. And it simply means to say that there will be a greater degree of, disappointment, a greater degree of breakdown, a greater degree of burnout than actual success. And therefore, the fact remains that those in the startup world need to realize that if I have that kind of a belly, that kind of a gut, that kind of a mind, that kind of a heart, liver, gizzard, then I must go for that. But if I don't have that kind of stuff, I mustn't get into that kind of a situation. I think it's a choice. But at this point of time, the herd mentality of the startup is on, and that is the disaster. Because I think we are going into it with mindless thinking, and everybody is going out there without the solid product. Cloning products which actually exist in overseas markets was the first trend. Okay, guys, you could get away with it. Cloning services which exist in micro overseas markets. Somewhere in Poland, there's this small little prefecture, and out there they're doing this one small thing, and I will take that and I'll take it to all of India. Okay, yeah, even that might work. Now, cloning an idea which works within India already, which is already doing well. Oh, guys, come on, take a break. Even ideas have a glass ceiling.
We'll just ask you, thank you, because you've made so many important points, and we kind of want to now dip into the world of startup ecosystems in a bigger way with Varun Gupta. He's also with us right now. He's the co-founder of Bold, so we'll have him on to give us a little bit of a flavor here. Varun, thanks for joining us here on the show in the morning. Varun, tell us, since this entire, I don't want to call it a controversy, but since this entire story has played out over the last few days, you've had a lot of founders come out on X itself and share their thoughts, some pro, some against, putting out detailed, sort of criticisms of what they think needed to be changed about the way this was done. But that's all on the face of it. I want to know behind the scenes, Varun, is there a reckoning of sorts that you've seen play out among your friends, among your colleagues, all of those that are founders in the startup ecosystem? Are they saying this is a really clever thing? Like, what's their thought? Tell us.
Morning, Toyan. Thanks for having me here. Very rightly mentioned. In fact, when a consumer or a user or a professional watches this on media and comes across this post, it might just sound like an opportunity, a job opportunity. And we as founders think of this as more of a PR opportunity. When I first read this, I was like, yo, there you are. He's at the top of his game. Dipinder's the poster boy of Indian consumer startups, and he's at the top of his game, way ahead of as many of us peers are. And post his activity of him becoming the delivery boy, and then him featuring on the Kapil Sharma show, and then now doing this, he could have garnered, he's garnered good 10,000 plus applications thanks to this. And he could have garnered even more, but the idea was to
plus though, yeah.
Yeah, and the idea is to make conversations happening, not just garner applications. So it's a beautiful way. I personally don't resonate with a lot of the facts, the numbers, the modus operandi of what is mentioned, but a beautiful way to go out and create conversation. So that's something that I, as a founder, and behind the scenes we talk about, and I was, tongue in cheek saying, good move, good cheeky move, interesting way to garner conversations.
Okay. Tongue-in-cheek move, Varun, but let me ask you straight. So you would never at Bolt ask for somebody to join in if they were ready to pay for the job? You don't think it's a good filtration process?
As a filtration process, fundamentally, I've read the follow-up post as well, and possibly I see that coming. Maybe that came after a lot of flack. But I personally don't resonate with the idea of having folks to pay up for the job. Given our country an immense supply of candidates, and
you do or you don't? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, I don't resonate.
You don't resonate, okay.
Yeah. The idea for asking to people to pay, and even if you ask them to pay, given the immense supply of people in the country, there will be enough people who would still be willing to pay if you're a well-renowned startup in the name of learning. But I personally don't resonate with having full-time professionals who are not paid for it, or even interns for that matter. We as a company, or I as a professional, as a human being, do not resonate with the idea of having any free services from anybody. So it just makes sense, and it's just sometimes bad karma that you might be able to see as an opportunity, maybe because of your brand name, maybe of the personal brand that you built. A lot of people who just aspire to be like you, aspire to be around you, might be just willing to either pay up or be just willing to work with you for free. But it will not really turn into longevity. It will not really turn into a long-term offer or a long relationship. For that, you need to start with that.
Varun, weigh in on that central question we're asking. Do you think it is possible to compare working at a huge company like the company in question, like the top 50 companies in our country that are like this, startups? Is it possible to compare that to what an MBA will bring you?
So, the conversation started with the learning and the investment in learning in an MBA. But the basic premise is flawed. So the position is for the chief of staff role. By definition, chief of staff is an extremely senior professional with about 8-10 plus years of experience, and somebody who's been there, done that, built a lot of startups ground up, built a lot of systems, processes, policies, people, culture, practices, etc. I do not think a young 22, 24-year, 25-year-old professional is a perfect candidate for a chief of staff, and thus was also a candidate for an MBA or a master's program will be the right fit for this role. So we're talking about completely two different cohorts of people. One is young people who are willing to go to a B school and of course be willing to pay for a degree. And they might anywhere between 15 to 50 lakhs in India for an MBA vis-a-vis this opportunity. But however, a real chief of staff would be typically paid anywhere between 30 lakhs to a couple of crores, and they would be coming with 8 to 10 years of plus experience, or even more for that matter. So while of course a huge amount of learning, but I still feel you have to be compensated for what you're providing services to the company. And the companies, of course, do not have to, given the immense demand supply situation, do not have to leverage this opportunity or sort of exploit the huge amount of supply that we have in this country.
All right, so Varun Gupta from Bolt is clearly not hiring on Twitter or on any of the other platforms. He wants MBAs. He's saying we'll pay you, but we'll do it the conventional way, which is quite surprising. But what a story, no?
Yeah,
It's got everybody talking over the weekend. That's all that everybody discussed. Did you apply or did you not? But on that note, what are your thoughts? You have a live feed running on YouTube. Please go there, leave your comments there while we slip into a very quick break. And on the other side of that break, we will take you to a very special conversation that Toya has had with Aamir Khan, and he talks about the Paani Way. How is he quietly making an impact on water in the country? That's in a moment from now.
And many others are injured in the clash between the protesters and the police personnel that happened on Sunday here in Sambhal area. I'm standing in the very same area, in fact very close to Shahi's Jama Masjid, where the survey team, after the court order, had come to survey the particular property, and then the clash was witnessed in fact in this area where we are learning about 3 deaths. As of now, the situation is peaceful, and in fact, I'm trying to show you the visuals where you are seeing the heavy deployment of UP police. Since morning, senior officers of UP police as well as the district administration are visiting the particular spot, and they are somewhere trying to maintain peace and harmony of the area. Senior people of the area, had a meeting. In fact, the peace committee meeting happened yesterday, and it was made very clear by UP police that whosoever will be involved in any sort of activity will not be spared. At least 20 people have been detained, and we are learning that police as of now is investigating as to if it was a larger conspiracy. They are also checking the mobile phones of those who are detained to see if it was a pre-planned thing or it was a sudden mobilization. In fact, this was the same route where this clash broke out yesterday, and in fact we have seen the videos on social media, and we know the kind of things that happened. But as of now, as precautionary measure, administration has banned the mobile internet services here in this particular area. These shops are closed, but we have been told that there is no restriction on shops. In fact, on Monday, it is the general practice in this particular area that people generally don't open their shops. As of now, it has been made very clear that the area is peaceful, and whosoever will try to disturb the peace and harmony of this area will not be spared. 3 people were killed and several others were injured after the protester clashed with UP police personnel here in Sambhal area. I'm standing at the very same Shahi Jama Masjid, and you can see the police deployment as of now. The situation is peaceful as of now, and senior officials from UP police and in fact senior officers from the administration have been visiting the area, and in fact it has been made very clear that whosoever will be involved in any sort of activity like what happened on Sunday will not be spared. In fact, we have been learning that more than 20 people have been detained as of now, and in fact the police is investigating as to if it was a part of larger conspiracy. As of now, additional SP Amroha has gone inside, and you can see the police deployment. There senior officers of the UP police are present. PAC has been deployed in the area. In fact, peace meeting happened yesterday, and all sort of measures that are required in any sort of conditions like such are being taken by the UP police, and focus is on number 1, the investigation as to what actually led to the situation where the protesters clashed with UP police personnel, and if it was a part of larger conspiracy, and secondly to restore peace in the particular area. Today is Monday, and as per general practice on Monday a market is closed here in this particular area, and that's the reason why you are seeing no people around, and in fact these shops are closed. But it has been made very clear that people can open shops and area is peaceful and there is no special condition. Yes, there have been several sort of restrictions that have been put in place. For example, mobile internet services have been banned in the particular area for the 24 hours, and in fact the administration is constantly asking people to not to believe on any sort of misinformation and not to get involved in any sort of activity that can in fact impact the law and order situation of the area.
Welcome back. I hope you're enjoying this edition of the Breakfast Club, and if you're not, the next one is clearly going to rope you in. Our person of interest today is the one and only Aamir Khan. But today we're going to talk about the side of his who you don't really know about his organizations, the extraordinary work over almost a decade to make rural Maharashtra actually drought free. Today his organization Paani has impacted more than 6,000 villages and trained more than 40,000 farmers.
We sat down to understand how Paani has made people Atmanirbhar. We've also sat down to understand how they've worked to solve one of the most pressing issues of our time. Here's Aamir Khan and the CEO of the organization, Satyajit Bhatkar, on how they walk the talk. Take a look. Here on the Breakfast Club, we have with us a very, very special guest. Someone that you know for his legendary roles, but who we're here to talk with in an entirely different capacity. We're here to talk with him about the Paani Foundation, an organization that he's grown since all the way back in 2016. And we have with us the person who actually is its CEO, Satyajit Bhatkar. They're both with us here today. Thank you both so much for joining us, for having this chat. Tell us, what Paani does is very, very unique. You've used a gamified approach almost to teach people a little bit about what it takes to do water resource management. Tell us about that.
Well, after doing 3 seasons of Satyameva Jayate, both of us felt that as communicators, because that's what we're doing, we wanted to know if instead of jumping topics, what if we stick to one and continue to work as communicators, but we stick to a topic until we make a significant difference. And is that going to be something that we can offer? And with that in mind, we decided to work on water, because that is one of the topics we had covered in Satyameva Jayate. And also we feel that water is a very fundamental issue. And in our very earlier on, we realized that the way to actually work on water is to get people together. Because in the few examples of villages in Maharashtra where decentralized watershed management had been accomplished successfully, in all of those cases we realized that the people had come together. There was a lot of social unity and people had come together as a cohesive force, and that was prerequisite in solving their water problem. And so we realized that actually the key is to bring people together and to try and create a people's movement. Now you have to remember that Maharashtra is larger than Germany. It's like a country in Europe. So we are not talking of a small geographical area. And in our ambition, we wanted to try and achieve scale. And in order to achieve scale, Satya actually came up with this idea of a water cup where you actually make villages compete. And we felt that this is a model which can scale up over the years to get more and more people involved. A bit like Telematch. I don't know whether you've seen Telematch. When we were kids, there used to be this program called Telematch, which used to be shown on Doordarshan, which was these German villages competing with each other, and there was fun and games in that. And so we thought, what if we do something like that and make it fun for the villagers to take part in something that is actually very important to their lives, which is water. And that's the idea that Satya came up with, and then we built on it and we kind of created a design, and that was the most important part, creating the design.
Aamir, if one were to actually look at your filmography, films like Rang De Basanti, films like Tare Zameen Par, these are films that have left their mark on audiences and taught them how to think about different issues. And in a way, Paani does something very, very similar to that. What are the sort of big learnings, the big takeaways in how to teach the audience or people a lesson or make them inspired about something?
I think I would say before that is one, people have to come together. No matter what the issue you're facing, it's only when we bring people together and they work as one cohesive team or force can you make, the needle move. So that's the first thing I think that we've learned.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that we've realized is that, you have to have joy in life, no matter what you're doing. And you have to own it. So if the problem is mine, I must emotionally feel that ये मेरा problem है और मजा लेके मैं किसी और को allow करूँगा solve करने के लिए, मैं ही solve करूँगा, मेरा problem है मैं ही solve करूँगा, वो जो जज्बा which you have to create is a very important aspect of, when you own the problem, you own the solution as well, and you want to be a part of that.
Satyajit, Aamir, we're meeting both of you and having this conversation in Delhi, right in the middle of an AQI crisis. The air here unbreathable. I just want to ask you, are there lessons from the Paani story? Though Paani is dealing with water, are there lessons that we can apply to this too?
Well, first let me say that we have not studied the issue of air cleanliness. So I'm not an expert on this matter at all, but I'm willing to bet that the social side of it, and that is bringing people together, is going to be a very important part of the solution. If you really want to solve, whether it's this problem or any other problem, you have to get the people together, all working in conjunction towards one goal. And then you will find that no matter what the technical solution to that may be, but all of us have to be working towards one goal, and then only we will find success. So it has to be a people's movement. I would guess.
Yeah, I would agree.
My guess is that it has to be a people's movement.
I think it will be a little presumptuous for us to speak about what it requires to solve the air AQI challenge in Delhi NCR. But I can share with you what we have done in terms of water in rural Maharashtra. I think just to add one point to when Aamir says people's movement, he's not referring only to the villager. In Maharashtra, what happened really successfully is that when the people came together, it was not, when we are not referring only to the villagers, but to government, to industrialists, to NGOs. Like there were 2,000 media played such a huge
such an
role.
important part.
Media, which normally competes with each other, we had a situation, it came together to the extent that we used to run a television show which is a 1 hour show, not even a small show, 1 hour show in Marathi called Tufan Alaya. And all the rival channels, which is say Zee, Sony, Doordarshan and Star, came together and did a roadblock. And it was on news channel and on entertainment.
GEC and news channel.
So
all of them played.
So if you were watching television at prime time on Saturday night, 9 p.m, you had to watch a show about water conservation.
If you were watching a Marathi channel.
If you were watching a Marathi channel. So the point I'm trying to make.
When I say people, I'm glad you clarified. When we say people, it's not just the people, who are affected by the problem. It is society as a whole. In our training, there was a story we used to tell, and the story was about this forest fire. And this forest gets, has a fire, and all the animals come running out, and they're watching the forest burn. And they see a little bird which flies to a river close by, takes one drop of water in her beak. She comes back and drops it on the fire. It's a raging fire. But she goes back and forth, just dropping one drop. And all the animals are like, what are you doing? Are you mad? This one drop is not going to put the fire out. So the sparrow replies and says, I know, maybe it won't. But when the story or the history of this fire is written, I don't want to be in the names of people who stood by and watched. I want to be in the list of people who tried to do something. Now that itself is such an inspirational story, and that is what is the feeling that we feel that really infects people, and they want to come forward and do it, and everyone wants to do their bit.
But we're surrounded these days by media that's very preachy. It's constantly telling you to care. So to you, what is the secret to actually getting a message across?
Any big issue that you're trying to solve, you need someone in charge who's trying to create an overall design for the solution, and then everyone coming together. It's not possible without that. That's what we feel. Yeah. So what we were trying to do. We were trying to do work in watershed management. So the science we were following was not something that we had worked on. Decentralized watershed management existed years before we were even born, perhaps. But that's something that we used as the technology that we were using was decentralized watershed management, which was not ours. But we were just making it popular.
Aamir, Satyajit, if we were to ask you, what's the way to get young Indians in particular to care more about these things, what would you say?
No, I think young people in our country are very sensitive to this. In fact, perhaps more than our generation. They are much more sensitive about the environment. Yes, and they have a lot of desire in them to do the right thing. So I think the youth is in the right direction. We need to buck up.
Aamir, Satyajit, thank you for taking out the time, for leaving us with all of these pearls of wisdom for our audiences right here on The Breakfast Club. All right, the adults need to buck up is what he said, and I'm going to agree with that. We're going to head into a quick break. On the other side, speaking of the environment and speaking about the air quality, we're bringing you an air quality check as Delhi's air quality plunges. After yesterday we saw better air quality levels. We don't have good news to report, but do join us on the other side in just a few minutes.
And many others are injured in the clash between the protesters and the police personnel that happened on Sunday here in Sambhal area. I'm standing in the very same area, in fact very close to Shahi's Jama Masjid, where the survey team, after the court order, had come to survey the particular property, and then the clash was witnessed in fact in this area where we are learning about 3 deaths. As of now, the situation is peaceful, and in fact, I am trying to show you the visuals where you are seeing the heavy deployment of UP police. Since morning, senior officers of UP police as well as the district administration are visiting the particular spot, and they are somewhere trying to maintain peace and harmony of the area. Senior people of the area, had a meeting. In fact, the peace committee meeting happened yesterday, and it was made very clear by UP police that whosoever will be involved in any sort of activity will not be spared. At least 20 people have been detained, and we are learning that police as of now is investigating as to if it was a larger conspiracy. They are also checking the mobile phones of those who are detained to see if it was a pre-planned thing or it was a sudden mobilization. In fact, this was the same route where this clash broke out yesterday, and in fact we have seen the videos on social media, and we know the kind of things that happened. But as of now, as precautionary measure, administration has banned the mobile internet services here in this particular area. These shops are closed, but we have been told that there is no restriction on shops. In fact, on Monday, it is the general practice in this particular area that people generally don't open their shops. As of now, it has been made very clear that the area is peaceful, and whosoever will try to disturb the peace and harmony of this area will not be spared. 3 people were killed and several others were injured after the protester clashed with UP police personnel here in Sambhal area. I'm standing at the very same Shahi Jama Masjid, and you can see the police deployment as of now. The situation is peaceful as of now, and senior officials from UP police and in fact senior officers from the administration have been visiting the area, and in fact it has been made very clear that whosoever will be involved in any sort of activity like what happened on Sunday will not be spared. In fact, we have been learning that more than 20 people have been detained as of now, and in fact the police is investigating as to if it was a part of larger conspiracy. As of now, additional SP Amroha has gone inside, and you can see the police deployment. There senior officers of the UP police are present. PAC has been deployed in the area. In fact, peace meeting happened yesterday, and all sort of measures that are required in any sort of conditions like such are being taken by the UP police, and focus is on number one, the investigation as to what actually led to the situation where the protesters clashed with UP police personnel, and if it was a part of larger conspiracy, and secondly to restore peace in the particular area. Today is Monday, and as per general practice on Monday a market is closed here in this particular area, and that's the reason why you are seeing no people around, and in fact these shops are closed. But it has been made very clear that people can open shops and area is peaceful, and there is no special condition. Yes, there have been several sort of restrictions that have been put in place. For example, mobile internet services have been banned in the particular area for the 24 hours, and in fact the administration is constantly asking people to not to believe on any sort of misinformation and not to get involved in any sort of activity that can in fact impact the law and order situation of the area. There are claims and counterclaims in whatever happened in Sambhal area yesterday, and I am standing in one house here in Hindupura area of
Welcome back, and it's time to take a look at the pollution meter. And while the weekend had a bit of a respite, Monday brought back with it all the AQI blues, and Supreme Court took note of it quite heavily. In fact, in a hearing yesterday, they went on to say that stage 4 of GRAP, that is the Graded Response Action Plan, will continue in Delhi NCR, and the court also said that unless it is satisfied that there is a consistent decrease in AQI, it cannot order curbs below GRAP-III and GRAP-II. The court also noted that despite its orders, no checkpoints were deployed to check the entry of trucks in Delhi. The court also observed that several sections of society are adversely affected due to GRAP-IV, remember, and including labourers and daily wagers, and with construction sites shut, they are the ones who suffer the most. The court has asked the states now to use funds collected as labour cess to substantiate and sort of bring in as compensation for those whose work has been impacted. But air quality will not be, the GRAP will not be let go of. But that's what it's looking like in the morning. Let's go to Toya, who has the latest numbers for us.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court will look at this issue on Thursday again, and they'll actually look at the numbers from the last few days. They'll have the collection, because yesterday, you'll remember, Sonal actually showed us that the air quality was all right. This was Monday in the morning. But the problem is that over the day yesterday, again, the wind quality slowed down, so that by evening yesterday, you'd once again seen air quality levels across the entire city deteriorate. And unfortunately, it's about the same picture today morning. So we're taking a look at the numbers here. As usual, you've got the worst numbers coming in right here, Anand Vihar. It's a bus terminal. It's a central terminal point for a lot of vehicles, and that's why we usually see those bad numbers. But unfortunately, in areas that are typically the city's green pockets, down here, so, areas around, for example, Lodi Garden, areas around the Aravali Biodiversity Forest, numbers aren't much better. And it's really unfortunate. This is Sri Aurobindo Marg. It's coming in at 195. 214 coming in for Arkipuram, and that's right next to the Aravali Biodiversity Forest. So these numbers continue, as you can see, to not be very good. Let's just check in, though, on both of Delhi's neighbours. So if you just take a look at Noida, for example, sector 116, just a few minutes away from where we are, 188, better than Anand Vihar, as we showed you a little earlier, but not much better, as you can tell. And we're just going to take you down here. Gurugram, again, 169, in the unhealthy, firmly unhealthy range. And again, this is unfortunate news, but what we're learning right now is that it's only going to get worse over the next few days. So up until Thursday, most predictions are saying that the air quality is going to actually further deteriorate. So horrible news on that front, but we'll continue to bring you data like this and keep you up to date with what it is that the Supreme Court has to say on this in a few days. But what can our viewers do at home, Sonal, just to protect themselves?
You know this well by now, all of us watching. You have to wear your mask, not just any mask, not a cloth mask, not a surgical mask, but an N95. That's the only thing that keeps PM 2.5 away. You have to stay indoors as much as possible if you have to step out. And all of us want to go out only in the afternoons when the sun is at its peak and it's cleared out the smog a little bit. Ensure that you're using your air purifiers. Again, ensure that you're using HEPA filters. So read well on what actually filters out good air quality and apply that. All right, so that is all about the AQI. But talking about outdoors, आप गाड़ी तो नहीं ले जा सकते, but उसके बारे में बात ज़रूर कर सकते हैं. So let me take you to that next. Today we are shifting gears in our auto segment to the world of motorcycles. Overdrive has been giving you insights about the latest automobiles in the market, but today we are telling you the story of the man who saved Royal Enfield.
Right, Royal Enfield, much loved by motorcycle lovers. It's the one bike they all swear by. Now, it was on the banks of bankruptcy. It has been multiple times. And in the early 2000s, a young CEO took charge and he decided he wanted to re-energize the company with everything that had made it what it was in the first place and bring the motorcycle company back on track. Overdrive is going to be telling you this story. Take a look.
Hi guys, I'm Kranti Sambhal. Welcome to Overdrive, and right now we are at EICMA 2024 at Royal Enfield stall, where we can see these two prototypes or two concepts, maybe we can call them concepts, which is the Flying Flea, the latest brand or latest vertical which is announced by Royal Enfield. This is their electric range, and they have announced C6 and S6. Where C6 is going to be launched in 2026. So right now what we are looking at is not a production ready bike, because this we can call a concept or prototype, but you can understand the kind of design theme or philosophy Royal Enfield is thinking of following. And I'm 6'3", and look at this bike. If you can compare it with my height, you can understand this is not a regular Royal Enfield bikes you generally see. This is smaller. This is thinner, this is very sharp, or from front it is looking very narrow. And some of the elements will remind you of the typical Royal Enfield, for example the headlamps, but other elements, for example this girdle front fork, this is something which they have adapted from their 1940 Flying Flea, and this is kind of tribute to that motorcycle. And this, we don't know what kind of battery pack this will have, and we also don't know the kind of range. But Royal Enfield is pitching this as a city plus bike, which would have a range where you can use it in urban setting, but at the same time, if you want to take it for a longer ride, you can take it. So we don't know about the range, we don't know about the battery size, we don't know about the battery chemistry yet. But this is more or less the kind of shape we are going to see. There's so many elements we were curious about. For example, the tire, the profile tire. This is 1919 profile tire, and looking at your comments, you find these tires to be maybe too thin. But what Royal Enfield is saying that they are thinking of looking at different versions. They will make some changes, but at the same time, this is the kind of bike we have in front of us. So let's take a closer look at this motorcycle. Other than this front fork, which is again very interesting, retro futuristic kind of design. This has single disc at front, and then look at this shape, which feels like a fuel tank, which obviously is not, because this is an electric bike. And the battery cover, which has very interesting looking fin design, which also reminds you of those old school engines. And you just have one foot peg over here, no brake lever, and these panels, most of them are just for display purpose. This is not a production ready bike. We are not going to ride it anytime soon, because as you know, the launch is expected in 2026. But what we can see is that this bike is hardly has any chrome on it, which we generally see on Royal Enfield or we associate Royal Enfield with. This has lots of aluminium, and this is something which Royal Enfield is focusing on. So as I said, this is not a production ready bike. This is a prototype or a concept. The launch is in 2026. We don't know the expected pricing, but expect it to be a bit more premium than the typical electric vehicles or electric two-wheelers we see. And this is going to be a new kind of market, new kind of segment for Royal Enfield or any motorcycle manufacturer in that sense, because if we look at electric bike market, we don't have so many lifestyle products. Most of the two-wheelers which are battery powered, they are used as for general commuting purpose and utility purpose. So this is a product which Royal Enfield hopes to cater to or appeal to those kind of riders who are not too much into the thump of Royal Enfield, and that is something which will the riders of our generation might miss. But let's see how this turns out, what kind of battery size, battery packs, battery chemistry, or the shapes and size, the tire size, what are the final figures. But this is what we saw at EICMA 2024.
All right, take that bike on the roads in cities where the AQI isn't too bad. That's enough though for the day we're drawing our show to a close. What are we taking a look at tomorrow?
Very interesting topic. We have spoken about sustainable diamonds earlier, but did you know that there is sustainable gold that is in existence? That means no more mining, stuff that can actually be worn, and it is called green gold. Catch us tomorrow 8 a.m. to know more all about that. See you
Goodbye.
then.
And many others are injured in the clash between the protesters and the police personnel that happened on Sunday here in Sambhal area. I'm standing in the very same area, in fact very close to Shahi Jama Masjid, where the survey team, after the whole order, had come to survey the particular property, and then the clash was witnessed in fact in this area where we are learning about 3 deaths. As of now, the situation is peaceful, and in fact, I am trying to show you the visuals where you are seeing the heavy deployment of UP police. Since morning, senior officers of UP police as well as the district administration are visiting the particular spot, and they are somewhere trying to maintain peace and harmony of the area. Senior people of the area, had a meeting. In fact, the peace committee meeting happened yesterday, and it was made very clear by UP police that whosoever will be involved in any sort of activity will not be spared. At least 20 people have been detained, and we are learning that police as of now is investigating as to if it was a larger conspiracy. They are also checking the mobile phones of those who are detained to see if it was a pre-planned thing or it was a sudden mobilization. In fact, this was the same route where this clash broke out yesterday, and in fact we have seen the videos on social media, and we know the kind of things that happened. But as of now, as precautionary measure, administration has banned the mobile internet services here in this particular area. These shops are closed, but we have been told that there is no restriction on shops. In fact, on Monday, it is the general practice in this particular area that people generally don't open their shops. As of now, it has been made very clear that the area is peaceful, and whosoever will try to disturb the peace and harmony of this area will not be spared. 3 people were killed and several others were injured after the protester clashed with UP police personnel here in Sambhal area. I'm standing at the very same Shahi Jama Masjid, and you can see the police deployment as of now. The situation is peaceful as of now, and senior officials from UP police and in fact senior officers from the administration have been visiting the area, and in fact it has been made very clear that whosoever will be involved in any sort of activity like what happened on Sunday will not be spared. In fact, we have we have been learning that more than 20 people have been detained as of now, and in fact, the police is investigating as to if it was a part of larger conspiracy. As of now, additional SP Amroha has gone inside, and you can see the police deployment. There, senior officers of the UP police are present. PAC has been deployed in the area. In fact, peace meeting happened yesterday, and all sort of measures that are required in any sort of conditions like such are being taken by the UP police, and focus is on number one, the investigation as to what actually led to the situation where the protesters clashed with UP police personnel, and if it was a part of larger conspiracy, and secondly, to restore peace in the particular area. Today is Monday, and as per general practice, on Monday a market is closed here in this particular area, and that's the reason why you are seeing
Hello and a very good morning to all our viewers. You're watching the morning news show on CNN News 18 and I'm Sakshi Singh Litoria. Over the next 60 minutes, we'll be walking you through the top headlines from the nation and across the globe. At the top of this segment, some breaking news now coming in. Well, we are learning that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate in the Constitution Day celebrations in the Supreme Court. In fact, he will address the occasion at around 5:45 p.m. today. Union Law Minister Arjun Meghwal, Chief Justice of India Sanjeev Khanna, Justices B.R. Gavai and Suryakant, and the Supreme Court Bar Association President Kapil Sibal will also be addressing this particular event. We'll bring you more details with regards to what's in the bag for today. We have CNN News 18's Executive Editor Aman Sharma joining us on the broadcast. Aman, a very good morning to you. We are expecting an address by the Prime Minister at about 5:45 p.m. What exactly is the significance of the day? Please walk us through that.
Well, Sakshi, this is the start of the year-long celebrations of the 75th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution of India. So a major